Just before we begin, sorry, I'm just feeling a little bit parched. Sorry, into the hand, please. Into the hand, please, thank you. I don't want to stretch at all unnecessarily. As we kick off the Q&A, Nicole has a question here where Nicole says, "Hi Vin, how do you organize your thoughts on the spot so that words come out of your mouth are articulate?" When I first started my communication skills journey and people ask me something complex, I always say to them, I grab a book and a pen immediately. So I grab my pen and I grab a book, and usually I always have a notepad with me. So I'm like, hey, do you mind if I take a few moments just to gather my thoughts before I answer the question? And then I'd put my notepad down and then I'd start writing. And I just write out a few key things, might take me 30, 45 seconds, and then I share my thoughts. I used to do that all the time until I was able to do it in the moment. And you have to understand it's a skill. And that skill is way easier to develop if you have a pen and paper with you. I avoid using my phone simply because I don't want people to think I'm checking social media. That's why I always have a pad and a pen with me. And I find that that's a wonderful way to start being able to collect my thoughts, not on the spot. You're collecting your thoughts within about 45 seconds. And soon, as you do this more and more and more and develop the skill, you'll find you can do it in 30 seconds. Then you'll find that, oh, wow, I did that in like 15 seconds. Oh, wow, I did that in like 5 seconds. I just went, wow, before I even put my pen to the paper, I kind of went, oh, yeah, no, actually, I know exactly how to answer this. So that skill takes time to develop, and that's how I developed that skill. All right? So please understand that when you're collecting your thoughts, you want to be able to give yourself time and space to do so. Otherwise, if you're thinking you immediately have to go from where you are to being able to answer on the spot, you're not giving yourself any time to get better at the skill. When I think about answering questions, there are two paths I can take. Let's say someone says to me, "Hey Vin, why should someone build their personal brand online?" Okay, so I'm just kind of randomly throwing a question at myself here. It's a good one because I actually don't know why people should, but let's say I take a few moments. I can either answer one of two ways. I can either answer it as a one answer question. I can either answer with one answer, or I can answer as a listicle. Meaning, I can say, look, the main reason someone should spend time building their personal brand online is so that you're able to build first impressions with hundreds and thousands of people, even while you sleep. And that's really powerful. That's me using one answer to answer the question. Or I can answer in a listicle, right? And when you answer in a listicle, it gives you time to think of the other answers. Meaning, so someone says, "Hey Vin, why should someone build their personal brand online?" I can say, Always give yourself a few moments and pause and think. And I'm literally using that time right now for myself. Oh, I love this question. You see, I think the first reason why someone should build their personal brand online is that it gives you more reach. You're able to reach more people in your industry. The second reason is you're able to demonstrate expertise. Right? If you're sharing content online, that helps you demonstrate expertise at scale as opposed to just the people you talk with. And you know what the third thing is really powerful for? Is that as you demonstrate your expertise with more people, that opens up more doors for career advancement. Someone from a completely different industry might see your videos online and go, "Wow, I would love to have Vin in my organization." And you get headhunted for another position and you get paid more. You see, what I'm doing there is I'm not trying to see the full picture immediately. I'm taking one step at a time while I'm talking. So all I need in the first 3 to 4 seconds of pausing is I just need the first point. Once I've got the first point and I'm talking about it, that will gradually potentially lead to another idea and I can share 2 points. And here's the cool thing. No one knows what you're going to say. No one knows what you have planned. So I could have stopped at 2. I could have stopped at 1. I could have stopped at 5. So if you share the first point and then the second point, and then you're like, "Oh, that's it." And you go, those are the 2 main things I would share with you as to why it's important to build a personal brand online. Is it appropriate to use storytelling in a job interview? 100% yes, absolutely. Because guess what? When you're in a job interview, one of the most important things is to build rapport with people. Of course, it's important to be able to share with them your credibility, be able to share with them that you're capable. But you don't want to miss out on connection as well, right? You've all heard this before. People do business with people they like. I see this in business all the time. Sometimes I see people and I'm like, I wonder why that person hired that person. They're actually not the best technically. But then All the time I find, I'm like, oh, okay, I know why they hired that person. That person's a bloody legend. And I know for a fact that if the company invests in that person will become technically really, really good. I can tell. People generally, we can't help it. We're human beings. It's very difficult for someone to make a pure logical decision because a lot of people are emotional. And even if you sit there right now and you're thinking, oh, Ben, but some people are purely hiring logical. Sure, but that might be 10% of the world. I find that the overwhelming majority of human beings cannot help it when somebody else on the other side from them is a really good communicator. They cannot be helped but be swayed by that person's influence if that person's ability to build connection is really strong. Matt asks, I got too many unnecessary pieces of information when I'm storytelling. I go into too much detail. Any tips on avoiding getting distracted and staying on point? Yes. Thank you for this question. There are 3 methods in which we can use to be able to shorten our stories and get our stories more concise. I hope you got a pen and paper. Write this one down. The first thing is focus on the peak emotion of that incident. Whatever the incident was that you're telling, focus on the peak emotion and only share the story that's around the peak emotion. Tip number 2. Focus on the peak action in the story. With the incident that you're describing, where was the peak action happening? Wherever that peak action was, only share the story within that kind of peak moment. Tip number 3, focus on the lesson that was learned. With the incident that you're describing, what was the lesson learned? And only share the story around where you learned the lesson. The moment that you learned it, only share the story around that. That's how you can stay on the right track and not end up waffling. David says, who are the other influencers or mentors you suggest we should look into to deepen our communication skills journey? I'm going to ask you a question in return, and we're going to play a rhetorical, we're going to create a rhetorical situation here. My question for you is, David, first of all, how does a chef become a great chef? A chef becomes a great chef by copying other great chefs. So what they do is they get the recipes from great chefs and then they'll cook it themselves and they'll follow that recipe exactly. They will imitate it. They'll emulate it exactly. And then the first time they cook it, they go, not bad. Next time they go, I'm going to follow it even closer because I didn't follow it close enough. So next time they follow it even closer, they emulate again. And then they cook it and they're like, ooh, marvelous, delicious. And then the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th time they cook it, they go, you know what? Okay, I know what I'm doing here now. I'm going to add in a little bit of my own flavors. I'm going to add in a little extra garlic. I'm going to add in a little extra thyme. I'm going to add in a little extra lemon zest. And all of a sudden now they make that dish their own. That's the same process. That's the same path we follow when we want to become a better communicator. Look for communicators that you really admire, right? There might be one right here. Could be. It's not Dan. It's me, right? So all of a sudden, you might pick me as one of those people. And if you don't, it's totally fine. It won't hurt my feelings. It's okay. So let's say you pick your top 5 communicators that you really like. You can just find people, again, who speak really well and you like the way they speak. So I can share with you mine here. The chefs that I used, the first one is Brené Brown. I really adore and respect and am inspired by Brené. So she's number 1. Second person is Les Brown. The third person is Darren Brown. Darren Brown is a magician. These 3 people are not related. They're not brothers and sisters, okay? They just happen to all have the last name Brown, which is ridiculous. Next person doesn't have the Brown last name. Simon Sinek. I really love the way Simon Sinek communicates. 5th one for me is Mel Robbins. Really love the way Mel Robbins communicates. I love how she's so direct, so friendly, so relatable. So now when you watch these great communicators, you don't just sit there and marvel at their brilliance. You sit there and you can go, I can see that Mel just switched from the coach archetype to the friend archetype there. I can see the method behind the madness now. All of a sudden now you can see what? Using the chef analogy, guess what you can see? You now can see the ingredients and the recipe for great communication. And now that you can see the recipe and the ingredients for great communication, guess what you can do? You can emulate. And as you emulate at the beginning, don't be afraid to emulate completely. And then as you emulate, as you're doing it and you get good at it, now the most critical part of the process is in front of you. You must not be afraid to add your own flavors because that's what's going to make you unique. And that's what's going to make you not another Mel Robbins, not another Les Brown, not another Anthony Robbins. Whereas at the beginning of my journey, I just copied Anthony Robbins because I thought I was going to be Anthony Robbins. And then every time I started my presentations, it was so gross. One time I started a class and I was like, all right, everyone, let's get up. And it was just so inauthentic. It was so gross, but I had to do it to know that it felt gross. And the only way I knew it felt gross was because I watched the video back and it made me want to vomit and die.